His watch care over me. She listened. She realized what she needed to do to change where her desires were coming from and how she met those desires. For some of us, we have searched trying to meet these needs outside of God, just like that woman at the well. But she realized when she met Jesus where that fulfillment came from. I want to turn to Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 13. And I'm just going to refer to the entire chapter up to that point. But Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, I can relate to Jeremiah. Everybody usually tells me that I cry too much, and I can relate to poor Jeremiah. And I haven't cried yet in this message, but anyhow, the time will come. I usually do. But Jeremiah is reaching out to his people with the word of the Lord, and they're not listening. It's frustrating for Jeremiah, and Israel is forsaking God. And he's trying to bring them back to their senses and saying, what are you doing? Why have you turned away from God who you know and forsaking Him? In verse 13 it says this, it says, my people have committed two sins. Number one, they have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. We have forsaken God. They have forsaken God, and they have been digging and trying to find satisfaction in dry, waterless cisterns that can hold no water. Is your life like that? Can you relate to where Israel was in this picture that Jeremiah is painting for us? Why have you turned away from your God who is the source of water, the source of life, the Spirit of God flowing within us, the relationship that God wanted with His people? And we've forsaken that. We have turned away from that. And we're trying to dig things on our own. We're trying to dig those wells on our own, and we're trying to find that satisfaction. We're looking for that water that will satisfy us. And whatever way we think it's going to be satisfied, we'll dig and dig and dig. But it's just an empty, dry, dusty, broken cistern. Are we trying to meet our needs outside of God? We wouldn't be the first. We won't be the last. And as I shared at the beginning of my message, I'm thankful that God knows everything about me, and yet He still loves me. And for that, I give Him praise. I give Him glory, because there's times where I have walked away. I have said, I can do this without you, Lord. And so I can't point any fingers at the nation of Israel, and I can't point any fingers at any of you, because I'm just as guilty. We're all human here. We all have looked to our own ways of digging to meet our own needs and forgotten God. Oh boy. What wells have you been digging? What have you planned? Do you think that you're going to find that satisfaction? Are you going to find your thirst quenched by a person, another human being? Are you going to find your thirst quenched by a possession? Do you think you're going to find your thirst quenched by a time or a place? You know, we're always looking for that answer. Oh, you know, let's look at these three things. If I only found Mr. Right. If I only found Mrs. Right, Miss Right, I'd be so happy. It'd be a never-ending bliss. If I only had this, if I only had that yacht, oh, I'd be so happy. My life would be complete. If I only had that job that paid all that money, I'd be so happy. about the one we like to use. Oh, I can't wait till I retire. I'll be so happy. We're forgetting to live right now. We're forgetting that God wants to use us right now. God has a desire for our lives, and it's not, we're not going to reach a point where, oh, I'll be so, maybe we reach a point where things may be a little better or a little easier for us to serve God. I don't know, but you know what? So we try to find satisfaction in all different types of things. And all those things in and of themselves are not bad. God wants you to find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. God, and that's according to His will. God wants you to find that, and God knows who Mr. Right is or Mrs. Right is for you. Are you listening to what God's trying to say to you? I try to tell the college group all the time, don't worry about it, who it is that God has in store for you to marry. That person that He's got plans for you to marry, He already knows who it is, and so just trust Him. Be praying for that person. We try so hard to meet that person, and you know what? God brings that person into your life. It's amazing. We worry about that so much, but we don't need to. Those possessions, it's okay to have things if we know where we've received them from and that they're blessings from God, they're gifts from God. And are we willing to use them for God's glory? Is that thing more important to you than your relationship with God? Then that's where it becomes a problem. That's where it becomes an idol. Or that time or place. Oh, I can't serve God now. I'm going to wait till later. Or I'll be happy when I get here and there or there. What is it? What is it that you're searching for? Where do you think you're going to find that satisfaction? I want to share with you today that there are 3 types of people. Pastor Tim's version of 3 types of people. Number 1, the kind of person who realizes that your true peace, your thirsts in your life are only going to be quenched and satisfied in your relationship with God. From your relationship with God. That's one person. The second kind of person is the kind of person who sometimes we can relate to because we've all done this from time to time. A person that used to be like the first person who looked to God for the thirst to be quenched, but somewhere in our lives we took a detour. Pastor Doug in his new members class, he shows this highway of life, and it comes to this place, sometimes Satan tries to throw a detour into our lives, and we could get right back on to what God wants for us if we just confess that sin and continue on. But sometimes we just decide to continue on that detour. We're just going round and round and never getting back onto that highway that God has planned as we grow in our life, our spiritual life with God. And so we may have taken that detour. We may have said, goodbye, God. I'm going to meet my needs my own way. Don't say that you haven't tried that. We all have. Or the last person is the person who has been searching all their life but has not found where that true source is at, who it is. One of the great philosophers said that there's a God-shaped vacuum. I don't remember the name of the person who said this, but that there's a God-shaped vacuum within each side of us, within the inside of each one of us, that can only be filled by God. And basically, we do not find that satisfaction. We do not find that fullness until we are filled with God. And we're searching all of our lives to fill that area of our heart, but we haven't found it yet. Maybe you're here today and you haven't realized that, and maybe you're hearing for the first time that Jesus is the way. He is the only way to find fulfillment for that thirst in your life. Which of those 3 people would you say you are? There is good news for all of us here today. Believers, the first person, believers here, those of us that are looking to God